Recently, I did a video about the best 8-bit games coming from the best 8-bit magazines, which was all fine and dandy because it introduced me to the wonderful world of Commodore User magazine. In its all things Commodore phase, it ran for a respectable 77 issues for roughly 7 odd years, 1983 until 1990-ish, when it ditched everything 8-bit to become just an Amiga magazine. A little like Sinclair User for the specky lovers out there, it was a pretty serious magazine with a smattering of game reviews until finally relenting to the popularity the games had, thus dedicating more and more pages to reviews of the latest titles. These reviews started with just 4 categories and no overall score, before finally including an overall score out of 10 and then moving on to the 100% club. After researching this magazine a bit, I've come to really admire its, how can you say it, couldn't give a shit attitude to game reviews. If these guys didn't like it, they let you know. For example, Sam Fox's Strip Poker. Now, this was generally considered terrible by everyone who reviewed it, but Commodore User went one better by publishing the actual Sam's Baps Out finish screen, proclaiming that, now you've seen it, you can avoid playing that drivel. I love it. I bet Martech were absolutely delighted with that. They were more than happy to give games really low scores and call them out if they were crap. And in fact, over the 7 years that the magazine ran, they gave 13 games 1 star or even less. Less, you say? Yeah, less. One game in particular got an overall score of, wait for it, 0. Zip. Nada. Zilch. I mean, you get the idea. But before we get to that golden turd, let's count down the other 12. Number 13, Fighting Warrior, Melbourne House, 1986, Commodore 16 version. Ooh, I do love a game that a reviewer deems as unplayable, which is the case here with Eugene Lacey's verdict on the C16 port of Fighting Warrior, which was average at best even on the more powerful Commodore 64. There appears to be no sound and not really any control, as I just bash the same attack to kill the first opponent. I mean, okay, it looks alright I guess, and I did defeat him fairly easily, so let's see how the next guy fares. This one just walks at you until you both become this sort of glitchy mess where it's hard to decipher what, if anything, is going on. After a short time of thinking you have the upper hand, he tickles you or something and you die. I repeated this set of events enough times to completely agree with Eugene. Graphically, it's pretty impressive, which is of little consequence in a game that is basically unplayable. At least it got 8 out of 10 for toughness. Wait, that's not a good thing, is it? Number 12, Jailbreak, Konami, 1986, Commodore 64. So this game has a brilliant loading screen and quite a nifty little tune that got my head bobbing a little bit. But all the fun and jollity was quickly sucked out of me when I started playing the damn thing. I mean, it scrolls okay I guess, but that doesn't really matter when in order for it to scroll you have to move forward. In order to move forward you need to not get shot. I got shot a lot. The weird thing is the perspective is all wrong. You can assume that you're in fact directly in front of your assailant only to discover you are 2 feet to the left or right of them. So your rather large slow bullets just sail peacefully by the bad man in question. This doesn't stop them shooting you though. Oh no. They will happily shoot down or up to you if you think you can just move past them in the hope that they ignore you, which doesn't work by the way. And it's almost like Darrell Etherington and Dave Garside took the graphics, coded them to move around a bit, but didn't actually playtest the damn thing. Or maybe they did, but Konami were knocking on their door with the release date looming, pissing in the wind after going it alone on this 8-bit offering rather than using the talent on offer at Imagine. So a that'll do approach ensued. Who knows, but on this occasion, Ferdy Hamilton's 1-star review seems rather justified. Now, I'm not going to repeat what Ferdy thinks the sprites look like in a perfectly suitable turn of phrase in the 80s that probably doesn't quite cut it today. But let's just say, he thought they were a bit shit. Number 11. Footballer of the Year. Gremlin Graphics, 1986, Commodore 16. Now, strangely, I quite like this one on the Speccy back in the day. I say strangely because nothing really happens, but at least the Speccy version had a nice graphical menu and the arcadey shooty bit. The Plus 4 and Commodore 16 versions, though, did not. The Plus 4 did have some graphical menu elements and got a probably worthy 4 out of 10 in this review by our friend Ferdy, but poor C16 owners got nothing. When it comes to match day, which basically meant playing against Nottingham Forest 10 times in a row for me, oh, and don't forget that powerhouse %5U, who I dominated in the cup.
Believe this, it was a ball in from Novak, they couldn't clear it properly.
All you do here is specify how many goal opportunities you want, and then if you shoot left or right. That is it. There are no graphics at all, just text. I mean, I get that the C16 is probably not the most powerful home micro in the world, but come on, give us something. And to top it off, as Ferdy points out, they charged full price for this, which is nothing short of daylight robbery, honestly. Oh look, I just beat Forest 4-11 in the cup. Wow, the actual realism is off the charts here. Weirdly, Ferdy does give it 4 out of 10 for graphics. What did he like? The font choice? Number 10. Lee Enfield, Tournament of Death, Infogrames 1988, Commodore 64. Me old mate Lee Enfield, which in a previous video I declared, due to a number of factors, to be the worst Commodore 64 game I've ever played. Maybe there are worse games here, maybe not, but on replay value this still makes me shudder every time I see its ridiculously small screen estate, terrible sprites, and unbelievably terrible movement that makes controlling our shitty looking hero such a tiresome task. Mark Patterson, our reviewer of choice here, sums it up in the first sentence with, "What an extraordinarily good title, what nice screenshots on the inlay, what an amazingly crappy game." Number 9. Grange Hill, Argos Press Software, 1987, Commodore 64. Good old Grange Hill. There was me thinking the Speccy version was the biggest version turd on offer here. Just look at this jump mechanic for a start. He goes 2 inches up and 5 feet forward. It's impressive to say the least. The text is even more riddled with mistakes, as pointed out by Mark Patterson in the review. The main character clearly has a beer belly, and with all other versions of the game, death awaits you at every stupid, glitch-ridden conceivable opportunity. Imelda screams and thumps you in the stomach? I mean, come on. A school game clearly written by someone who didn't go to one. All this could have been yours for a whopping 10 quid. Yes, 10 quid, just to hear the most annoying tune ever to emerge from a C64. As Imelda rightly points out in the review, this game is naff. Number 8. Pharaoh's Tomb, Magnificent 7 Software, 1986, Commodore 16. Now, I'll be honest, I've only played a handful of games prior to this one on the Commodore 16 or Plus 4, and all of them were a bit shit, so I didn't have high hopes. This also means I don't really know what the C16 could produce in the right hands. I mean, surely not all the games are crap. Well, this one is. This is very much the sort of game that sells itself primarily on the box art and instructions full of empty promises. A graphical adventure with many high-res screens, it says. Yes, it does have many screens, but I'm not sure how you define high-res. The screens all pretty much look the same as you wander through them looking for bits of a key. I found an apple which was nice and a key I couldn't pick up. A mummy zombie thing tried to kill me and succeeded a few times, and a terrifying spider appeared, but other than that it was pretty lame. Ken McMahon is in charge of the review on this one and sums up his feelings in one sentence. Pharaoh's tomb is the biggest pile of garbage I've seen since the bin men went on strike. He also dislikes the huge square that your sprite takes up that if you overlap with a baddie, makes stuff disappear, which does look pretty shoddy to be fair. For a $5 on an aging machine at this point, yeah, I don't know. 1 star seems a little harsh, as I kinda think it does what it says on the tin. Kinda. Number 7. Mask 2, or Mask 2-2. Gremlin graphics, 1987, Commodore 64. Yeah, so good that they apparently named it twice. This is the follow-up game to Mask 1-1, I guess. Now, I had discovered girls at this point, although they hadn't discovered me, so Mask was a cartoon I was not over familiar with. But I don't think that matters when you get to pick a character whose nickname is Chopper. Hello. Or indeed someone who wears a Spectrum mask. My kind of guy. I quite like the menu screen where you choose your choppers, but it did take quite a bit of time even on disc to get to our first mission. Now, Mark Patterson, our reviewer of choice on this one, reckons he finished each scenario in 10 minutes. Yeah, chinny reckon, Mark. Well, I played for double that time and could not get off this pissing level. The graphics for me are okay actually. I mean, they do the job. I can see I'm in a flying car, which is a good start. The ground is a bit odd with weird invisible pits appearing that you get stuck in, and the car doesn't always line up with the terrain underneath it. I really admire the enemy's persistence too. When you die, unless you press a key to try again, the bad guys will make sure you are properly dead by bombing the shit out of your already f***ed up vehicle. Just one more bomb to make sure? Yeah, maybe another one? Did I see him twitch? Oh, I'll drop another. Look, this is not going to win any awards. Zap only gave it 36%, but I don't reckon it's 1 out of 10 terrible. Maybe 4 at best. Number 6. Elevator Action. Quicksilver, 1987, Commodore 64. Don't be surprised the next time you go into a software shop and ask the assistant what the latest crap game is like, that he or she doesn't answer, "It's a load of old Quicksilvers," which was basically the reviewer suggesting that Quicksilver games were, by and large, huge fart muffins. Yes, we have Ferdy Hamilton on the case again, who also suggests the gameplay is about as exciting as a 5-star concert, which is pretty harsh if you ask me. So I quickly dismissed Ferdy's witterings. I mean, this is a game I fondly remembered on the Specky, so surely the Commodore 64 version holds up. Well, in truth, no it doesn't. It's really bad, and not in a 5-star way, more of a Morris Minor and the Majors vibe.
Well, no one's ever seen what I mean from the age of 13.
Yeah, I actually bought that one too. For starters, I swear you should be able to duck to avoid bullets. No? Well, not here you don't, which makes me wonder why you actually need to duck at all. The graphics are a glitchy mess, scores reset, and the controls are muddy at best. Honestly, I think Ferdy has hit the nail on the head once again. Top 5 time now, and you're going to like this one. Not a lot, as we have Every Second Counts by TV Games 1988 on the Commodore 64. Now, this game is shit on a stick. I mean, I hated those early evening Saturday night cheese fests. This Paul Daniels hosted nightmare replaced the even worse Bob's Full House apparently, so the BBC were just polishing a turd at this point. Now, I don't mind a quiz game from time to time, but stupid controls and a fairly bland round after round after round let this one down. I mean, it's just a bunch of questions set against some fairly average graphics really. Mike Penderton, the reviewer for this one, clearly had a thing for Paul Daniels. I say thing in the sense that he probably did a dance when Paul passed away. He hated him. You may like this or you may not, as TV personality and all-round slime bag Paul Daniels would say. Okay Mike, so not a fan then? Naturally, this is brain-numbing, particularly so in the untalented hands of Moron the Magician. Definitely not a fan. Even the cover art gets a bit of a bashing. Turning over the sickly picture of Slaphead Daniels on the front reveals 3 screenshots that portray this as not being dissimilar to any other quiz game. So, Slime Bag Slap-Headed Moron Daniels did not win over our reviewer with this offering, and yeah, not me either. Not because I dislike Daniels, I mean he was alright I guess in a TV personality of his time, but just because the game has no substance. Anyone, even fans of the show, would have been disappointed at this one. Number 4. Mountie Micks Deathride, Areola Soft, 1987, Commodore 64. Right, straight away I'm going to put this out there and say I like this one. There was a specky game I played which I think came out for the Commodore 64 as well, called Stop the Express around about 1984, that is the same kind of thing, and quite honestly this is done just as well. There is a torch and gas mask button, which I'm sure makes sense at some point, but off we go. I mean, the jumping mechanic is a bit of a clunkfest, but it's not terrible. Ducking actually works, which is a step up from elevator action, and the pace of the action moves along at a decent speed. Our reviewer is Mark Completed It Patterson again, who is clearly at it as he declares this is a piece of piss whilst using a Scottish accent. I mean, the music was a bit annoying, but at least you get to turn it off, and for a £5, I think this is a pretty decent little game. I'm giving it a 7 and putting CU's 1-star review down to Mark hating anything he completes, allegedly. One other thing of note is the review is next to the Specky's worst ever game, Squidge, which fared slightly better on the C64, as you can actually move. Number 3. Bomber Run and Supavaders Double Pack, KTEL 1983 on the VIC-20. Bomber Run and Supavaders Double Pack on the VIC-20 was the first game in Commodore User to receive 1 star across the board. Not because they were overly crap, just because Space Invader and Scramble type games have been done to death, and done to death better elsewhere. The games are actually not that bad, to be honest. Bomber Run looks okay, but doesn't offer much excitement. I mean, I'm not entirely sure if my fuel was ever going down, or if indeed I was progressing at all. Supavaders was more interesting though, with its 4-way shooting to try and stop the aliens landing, also while shooting the ones in the sky. The inane sound of the landing alien was enough for me to bail after 2 minutes, so I'll leave you with a bit of that before we move on. You're welcome. Number 2. Super Gran, Tynesoft, 1985, Commodore 64. Now, somehow I've managed to avoid Super Gran on my channel up until now, but Eugene Lacey's rock bottom review means it makes number 2 in our chart. Before we continue, I'd like to give you a brief synopsis of the game by showing you the best bits of me playing it for 30 glorious seconds. Shit. Wank. Bugger. Oh, stick. Mother twat bag. Dickhead. Oh, tosser. Oh, shit bucket. Shit Gran. Knobhead. Oh, off. Prick. Arsehole. Tits. Oh, dick face. I even had an infinite lives cheat, not that that helped me at all. It was infuriating to play, utter dogshit to look at, all the while listening to a rather dull rendition of the theme tune. This game is actually a crime. It's right up there with Highlander and the broken level on Robocop on the C64. It's a complete bellend of a game. Eugene hated this so much that he gave it no stars at all for value for money, giving it an average score of 0.75. Surely nothing comes close to this. And so we come to the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme, the pick of the litter, the best of the best. I'll shut up now, as quite honestly it's really none of those things. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Firebird's 1986 budget title classic, Ninja Master. Over to you, Ken. They're doing it on purpose. Software houses have picked up on my reputation for being ruthless on rubbish and, it seems, are intent on sending the worst dross they can dig up for me to tear to shreds in pages of Commodore User. Well, Firebird, you've asked for it. Here goes. Since I bought my 64 way back in Christmas 1933, an early model, I must have played literally hundreds, possibly thousands of games. Some have been brilliant, a great many have been average, and more than a few not worth the tape they were recorded on. Ninja Master doesn't fall into any of those categories. Quite simply, it's the biggest load of rubbish it's ever been my misfortune to load up. I feel guilty about feeding it to my poor old 64. If it were a dog, it would be chewing up grass in the garden and I'd be explaining my behaviour to the RSPCA. And so to the game. Ninja Master can be played using a joystick or the keyboard, or preferably neither. There are 4 stages to the game. In the first test you must defend yourself against flying arrows. There are 4 manoeuvres. You can punch or kick left or right, depending on which side and which height the arrows come at you. Animation is crude. The stationary ninja sprite is simply substituted by one of the 4 others with the appropriate kicking or punching action. It's all very easy and dead boring. Test 2, the karate chop. Stationary ninja sprite stands by a block of wood. You must wiggle the joystick back and forth until the power meter passes the critical level. You have 20 seconds in which to do this, at which point stationary ninja is replaced by chopping ninja. In fact, it only takes about 10 seconds to get the power meter up to the maximum, and a 3-year-old could manage it. The blurb says, this is probably the hardest test to complete, using your trusty ninja sword. Defend yourself against the deadly shuriken stars. It is more difficult, but essentially it's the same as stage 1. The graphics are crummy too. In the final test, the now unrecognisable ninja must shoot cans of Diet Pepsi from the air with a blowpipe. I got a crick in my neck just looking at him. Some of the games in the Firebird Silver range are quite good. This isn't one of them. Don't buy it. So a big fat 0, although he did give it 3 for sound, so those digitised effects did at least pay off. I mean, look, it's crap. You know it, I know it, whoever wrote it at Firebird knows it. But 0? Surely it took up some of your time if you purchased this. Even if you spent 30 minutes on it, it should get a 2 for value for money. So my final question here is, did anyone buy this game in 1986? And do you feel like it deserved 0 stars? I'd love to know in the comments, and in the meantime, I'm going to get the wife to throw kitchen knives at me to see if I'm just as good at blocking sharp objects in real life. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.
If you play, you might need a plaster in your quest to become a ninja master. Chopping wood will get issues your bare hands, which is even worse living in a Midlands. Shooting cans with your book cut plaster in your quest to become a ninja master. This in my eyelid. As I try to dodge knives a little bit faster, in my quest to become a ninja master. Les nästa vår så tar jag nog sticker på snatsa. Av den i vem jag explosiv som eldsmaster.